Everything we know, from people and ants to stars and galaxies to quarks and atoms, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer inside an even bigger universe. Ancient philosophers said that the universe is a dream that we're waiting to wake up from. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. All cultural items, from the dreams of our rodent-like ancestors, to books, to television shows, are merely permutations of the reality we think we live in. Today's age of computers and video games places simulations at the center of our cultural consciousness. A select group of us perform simulations for fun and profit, and we call them games, role-playing and otherwise. We live to run simulations. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
To the Simulationist podcast iteration 53. We're recording this on September the 8th of 2013. My name is Josh Levin, and across the table,
Ryan Kirkby.
Hey Ryan, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing pretty good. I managed to finish off the fourth book in the Wheel of Time series.
Oh, very good.
Yes,
very good.
It ended on an interesting note. There were some twists, some hidden characters that I had suspicions about, but I wasn't sure who was really whom. And in the end, it all got revealed, and masterstrokes were done. I learned more.
But you're not going to give any spoilers?
Well, I don't want to, but it's nice because how it worked in the end of this book is it revealed some more information, and then things start making more sense back in the first book.
Oh,
what he really did there, I understand more clearly.
Well, that's always nice when an author pays off like that.
Well, the thing is, it's not just pays off. It was good the first time, but now it means more, because I understand more. That said, because it's effectively 14,000 pages of reading, I don't know if I'm going to wind up going through it again.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. But, interesting kicker is I'm 50 pages away from the end of the book. I'm looking through some my other stuff, and I'm cleaning up my apartment. And I open a box, and what do I see? The book I'm reading. And then the next book in the series. Turns out I had picked them up months ago, and they just got wound up put in a box of stuff like don't throw out, but, just make sure it's not cluttering up the space.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I have 2 copies of book 4 now.
Oh, I see. And you just have 2 copies of book 4, but only one of the others?
One of 1 through 3 and 5. So,
okay. Well, you're set for book 5, although how long do you think it's going to take you to read it?
Well, so that's the thing, is they're about 1,000 pages apiece. I like to work my way through the index at the end to see if there's any changes to the entries.
So you're still reading the index off of 4?
No, I finished that up.
Okay.
It was just a quick browse. I'm not doing an in-depth study of this stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Just a browse. Oh, this entry here is much longer than it used to be. Okay, yeah, that's all stuff. And what I like about the index he puts in the back of the book is all relevant as of the start of the book. So it's like, that name sounds familiar. What is that? And then you check at the end of the book. It's like, oh, well, that was a spoiler I just read about what happens midway through chapter 14. So no, he actually makes sure that it's all good as of the start of the book, so you don't potentially lose any of the twists and turns of the story.
Oh, I see. Is it a particular twisty story?
Well, the thing is people tend to have hidden motives. They change who they are, what you envision of that kind of person, like where they're from.
Oh, I see.
The coming of the Dragon Reborn is meant to break all bonds and cause wars everywhere. So what was initially a wonderful little, if odd nation over here, he winds up going through that and, civil war here now. War between these 2 nations now. Sometimes they get resolved. Sometimes it's an ongoing fight between that, and it's not resolved by the end of the book. But it's all relevant for the index, and so that way you don't go reading up, so it's up, this nation is, it's on that part. I look it up at the map. And then, what's that? It's a civil war? That hasn't happened yet in my book. No, and that happens later. No. You make sure to avoid all that problem. So that's always nice.
Oh, yeah, cool. Let's see.
I said I've also worked a lot more on my Minecraft thing with the whole darkness. But my goodness, is it slow. I'm only halfway up. I'm only at vertical height 150. I'm above the clouds. At night, when I'm building my tower, I can look down and see the clouds go by.
So for the listeners who don't know, Ryan is building in his Minecraft world, he's building a layer of suspended dirt above the entire Earth, or as much as
It won't
he
be
can.
suspended dirt. It's actually going to be a nice layer of black wool for maximum darkness.
Okay, so he's going to blot out the sun.
I am going to darken the lands below me. And above that, I shall create a nice paradise.
Okay.
Lots of nice torches, good growing trees, animals wandering nicely in pens. Maybe a village if I can make that happen. I'll see what I can do.
But it is slow going.
Yes, it is. I mean, I'm not even up to the height where I can start putting the blackness up in the sky. It's just so much to work on. But at least I have a good staircase design, so that way it doesn't take me half the night to get up to where I want to go.
Right.
I got a nice central staircase, or ladder going up in the middle there, so I can make it up in a couple hours' time. Is it? Really? Because the whole night and day is like split into how many minutes is it?
Well, I guess it's 20 minutes for including both night and day.
So that's 12 hours. So if it only takes me a couple minutes, like a minute or two to get up there, that's what, like an hour or two then?
Well,
a little over.
I think 20 minutes would be 24 hours, because that's night plus day.
So every minute is an hour, give or take. Just on a quick roughly.
20 to 24.
So if it takes me about 2 minutes to get from my base ground up to there, that's 2 hours of climbing my character's doing.
Yeah.
No wonder I have to feed the poor guy daily.
Yeah, and I guess that makes sense because he's carrying how many pounds of cobblestone in his
Well,
backpack?
the thing is, I'm making sure to smelt it all, so it's just the monochrome base earth or base stone up there.
Yeah.
I suppose it would look a little bit more sinister if I'd gone with cobblestone, but I like the slightly more worked look to it. Like this is just a pillar of gray reaching to the blackness above. Good symbolism, I think.
Well, I like the thought of that. Just envisioning it in my brain. It sounds cool.
It'll look even better once I get it up there and I start blacking out the sky. I'll take some nice pictures and hopefully maybe I'll share them, with people, and you get to see how nice and evil it starts looking.
Yeah, well, we can post the pictures on our blog if you ever, take screenshots.
Well, it's going to take a while to get up there. It's taking me quite a long time. I mean, I got 2 furnaces working non-stop, smelting the stuff and building it up, and there's only so much I can do. And every once in a while, because it rains so much where I am, I have to wind up sharing my spot with an Enderman. So that means I can only look down as I go about the stuff, because I just don't want to get into a fight with the poor guy. I hold no ill will to them. They're technically neutral mobs.
Yeah. Although he has a wonderful ender pearl, which could be very useful for getting up and down. Well, of course, only one ender pearl won't do you much good, but
it always looks cool. But right now, I don't have any armor and just a stone sword. I haven't dug down deep enough to get enough metal to make anything like legitimate. First thing I got to do is shears. Lots of shears. If I can't have any shears, how can I get the wool? Because I'm playing this right now pure vanilla. So, it's no wooden shears, no rock shears, or anything. At least for now. I'm going to see how well I can do this on pure vanilla.
No, that's cool. That's good.
It seems a little more satisfying, I suppose. But how about you? What's been up in your fictional worlds?
Oh, up in my fictional world. I guess, I've been pretty busy with work, but I've got a bit of games in. Minecraft, they released a snapshot of the new version.
Oh, yes, I remember hearing about that.
There are going to be new biomes. I think we've actually mentioned those a little bit, but I did go ahead and I flew around a little bit in creative mode in a new map, and I made a YouTube video of me just doing all that. But it ended up being almost an hour long, so it's a little long. But of course, so are these podcasts. So if you listen to these podcasts, you might have, the time.
That's the thing, it's only like 2/3 of what our podcast is.
Yeah, basically. And it's got visual effects too.
Ooh.
But yeah, I sort of went around and I said, I like this, I don't like that, and all the different features.
So what did you not like then?
Oh, what did I not like? Well, I've been going on a big rant on the forums. I didn't do this so bad on the video, but about how they changed the rows, like the rows. The Minecraft rows is a rows that takes up basically a square meter of space. They changed that to, they split it.
Okay.
There's now a rose bush, which is 2 blocks high and 1 block,
cactus style.
Yeah.
2 by 1.
Looks like a cat. Yeah. And it's got 5 or 6 roses, or I'm not sure how many, but it's it's a bush with roses. And then they changed the initial rose to a poppy.
Oh.
So basically, you can't get the one rose. So I've been active on the forums, basically complaining, and I do feel a little bit bad for like piling it on, but I really think that Minecraft, I think they should have the original rose in the game. So
well, they could wind up working the whole rose and rose bush sort of thing, the equivalent to like the hay versus hay bale.
Oh yeah, I think that'd be a great solution. So I'm hoping that that's something that they do. It does look like I'm not the only one too. Like it looks like a lot of people are like, wait a minute, you can't just remove the rose. I mean.
Well, so that's the thing is, I'm sure for every person that wants it, there's another person that wants it different.
Well, yeah.
So while you're arguing, well, you got to have just the rose, a person saying, no, you got to keep the rose bushes, and a third person saying, you should use the dyes to be able to change the color of the rose. So that way you can get the whole painting the roses red sort of thing.
Yeah, sure.
Nice idea, I suppose. And that way you could give all the people that like being super goth, even in a Minecraft world, their black roses.
Oh, yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Actually, now that I think about it, it wouldn't be too bad to work. You get, the dye plus the roses, then you can make that up into the rose bushes, and then you can have black rose bushes.
Oh, wow.
Blue roses, blue
cool.
rose bushes. I think that sounds actually nice that way.
The new version adds a whole bunch of flowers. I don't know if the flowers were out last time we were talking, but there's tulips of several different colors. There's daisies. There's
so Minecraft is taking place in the northern Europe area, the Holland area with their wonderful flower designs.
Well, some of it, yeah. There's also like a blue orchid or something like that spawns in swamps.
Well, the way I'm looking at it right now is any which way I can create more style in the world, I'm going to be happy for.
Yeah.
So if I can wind up creating a wonderful flower garden sort of design that way, I'll go with that, sure.
Yeah. And sunflowers. They added sunflowers too.
Oh, yes, always facing east, is it?
Yeah, east, yeah.
Which is a shame, because it would be a nice way if it, after the noontime, it starts facing west. And that way, during a rainy day, you could still find out, was it AM or PM? Oh, you can tell. It just changed over.
Yeah, I think that would be that would be fun. That would be interesting.
It might be a little bit more work than they wanted for the original release. They'll probably add that in as a little extra bonus later.
They could do that, yeah. And I was thinking I'm not sure if there are any animated blocks, but there is the enchanting table is animated.
Yes.
So I guess that means it's possible. Although the enchanting table is a slightly different, it's a tile entity, not just a block.
Well, I think there's a system in their mechanics for it, at least.
Yeah, I think they could do it, yeah.
But it's like what they do with Dwarf Fortress. Is first you put it in, then you refine it.
Yeah, sure.
And that's how he goes for a lot of the stuff there. So yeah, first you put in these flowers, then you refine how the systems go. You make them a little bit more, you respond to what the fans say, and what they say works, doesn't work, what's overpowered, because in Dwarf Fortress, weaponization is always a factor, so... It took them a week to weaponize shearing.
Yeah. The thing about this latest thing is it's just a snapshot. It's not the actual, it's not the next update completely. Although Minecraft has always been a little bit odd in that way, and that a lot of people play with the snapshot, and as soon as it comes out, it seems like everybody is.
Well, I remember with WoW, there's a lot of people doing the test forum works too.
Oh, yeah.
They're going into the test realm and they're checking out the new battles and all that. It's just what they like to do. They like to be there. They like to be on the cutting edge and have, say, okay, I don't think this is working, and so they have a little bit of input.
Yeah. So my idea from here, though, is actually to lay off the new updates, not to watch the snapshots as closely and just go back to my normal.
I like reading the snapshots, but I don't think I'll go there, at least unless there's something I gotta check out, man. I gotta check this out.
Well, it is pretty cool.
I let them do a little bit more refining. I let them do a little polish, and then I'm happy.
Yeah. Then that's what I had always done until this update. And then this update, they made it really easy because you can update to the snapshot from the launcher. So it's just, I'll do the snapshot. Why not? And then you can go back too. You don't have to. Well, depending. I mean, as long as you sort of back up your worlds and you know what you're doing, then you can go back.
Very nice.
I think that covers like as far as like what I've been able to get done. Yeah.
Not much for Game of Thrones then this week?
Oh well, yeah. I guess I'm finished. Season 3 is like, I don't know.
I believe season 3 is out. I think I recall seeing the $60 price tag they had for that at HMV.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look for it because it wasn't on iTunes last I checked, but maybe it's coming or something. Winter's coming.
Well, that's the thing is for them, they're probably getting the big sales initially out, for the HMV, and then once the price goes down or the next season's out, and it's no longer the new hotness, hit up Netflix, then put it up there. Because I remember even the Oatmeal was mentioning something about that, about just not being able to find it unless you like get an illegal copy, because you want to see it. No, not here on Netflix, not here on Hulu. It's not, you can't get it on DVD box set yet.
Right.
So apparently they really focus on the demand aspect of it. Keep the hype there.
Yeah, I guess so. I'll be patient. I'll just wait until, like, I'm not gonna illegally download it. I'm not saying. Let me see. Yeah, I'm just not going to. I won't say anything else about illegal downloads, but I just don't have plans to do that.
So that's the thing is, I'd really like to pick it up, but that $45 to $60 price tag a season, I'm gonna have to wait.
Yeah,
I guess a little bit longer.
I'm not sure if I can start the books again because season 2 was based on book 2.
I believe so. Yeah.
Correct. So I watched season 2 without reading the book. So now, in order to start at book 3, I don't think I would have the correct background because I believe things are different in the books.
Yes, they start diverging.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if reading book 3 is the right way for me to go. I kind of want to just go straight into the show.
Or if you want, you can take a tangent over. I mean, the CBC website, I believe, has all the episodes of the Tudors.
Oh, that's a good
there.
idea.
This is a similar vein, but slightly more real.
Yeah.
If fictionalized account.
Well, there's a good recommendation. Yeah, I might do that.
Give an episode or two a watch, and it's all up there for free, apparently.
Ah, good. Yeah.
At least that's what the advertisements on the CBC News website has led me to believe.
All right. Yeah. So they picked the Tudors to be free. Well, I like that. I'm happy for that.
Well, it definitely gets people going to the website, and then next thing you know, I guess I should start watching the CBC on my cable package.
I guess so. I mean, it's funny because the cable companies are like, they keep on calling.
Please sign up for cable. We need you.
And no, I'm happy with just what I have on my computer. Like it's.
I'm happy with the basic cable I'm getting. I'm not paying a lot for it because it all gets wound up within the rest of the bundle, the landline and the internet. And so I wind up only paying, I believe, about $3 a month for it, and that's just the very basic, no extra premiums or anything.
Yeah, and of course, for entertainment, big part of my entertainment is podcasts.
Well, yeah. That's the thing is, I usually just have the show on in the background, just barely paying attention to it.
Yeah.
Especially since the History Channel got rid of all the really good stuff. I'm sorry, pickers and restoration stuff, it's just not my cup of tea.
Oh, what was I? There was something history that never mind. I talked about it last time. It was Zealot. It was the Reza Aslan book. So
yes.
Listen to our last podcast if you want to hear about Zealot, the book. That was
yes, we had a nice topic on that one. But actually, as I mentioned, I got the information for what the Tudors are from the CBC website, and that's where I got my conspiracy notion for this week.
Oh, okay.
Now, those of you out there who follow the news know Syria is in more trouble and more desperate situations than it has been in the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been in a civil war for the last 3 years, so you can tell how bad things are getting, because chemical weapons have been used. But here's the thing. We got side A saying it was the government who did it. They're the ones who are getting desperate. And then you've got side B saying it was the extremist rebels who did it. They're the ones who gassed it because they want to win at any costs. They want to make it look like it was the government to do it. And I'm thinking about this, and I'm not certain who to believe because I don't know the most about what the heck is going on in Syria.
Yeah.
I'm no expert, and so all I gotta do is consider both sides. And I'm thinking, what if they're both right? What if they're both using these chemical weapons?
Oh boy.
And blaming each other? And then it occurs to me, that's a great notion for a conspiracy thing, is you have two sides, neither of which can claim to be the good guy, both of which are doing bad things. That works great for a conspiracy theory, because then you have both conflict and no hope going in.
Oh, great. No,
because no matter which side you choose in the conspiracy notion, it's always the wrong side.
Yeah, that's so depressing, but so, like...
In this case, it may wind up being true.
Yeah, I believe it. And, well, I guess I tend to believe the story that it was the government of Syria who did the thing, but I also don't think that the rebels are saints either. Like, I think that they're pretty
You
bad
were to
people.
give them equal means, you would see equal results.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. If they had chemical weapons, I'm thinking they probably would use them. That's how bad I think they are. But, I mean, again, this is all coming from ignorance, and I don't really know what's going on.
Well, that's the thing, is a lot of people don't know what's going on. Even the experts still have way too many unknowns in their lists these days.
Yeah, that's true.
So, at this point, there's a lot of speculation, but I did think it more nice as a conspiracy thing, just to remind people that when you're setting up a conspiracy story or a theory, or even a world or campaign arc, for those who play the RPGs, try to abandon the notion that there's a good side. There's not a good guy and a bad guy, there's just a bad guy and a bad guy. And that's depressing, and it's not easy to think about, because I do believe there's a lot that goes into our youth about heroes and villains rather than villains and villains.
Well, I will say, like, going back to Game of Thrones for a minute, you, in some ways, like, even the good guy, like Ned Stark, even he is not, not that great.
Not that good.
He's got blemishes on his record. I mean, they talk about him being, a man of honor and this and that, but he basically, in order to rule the North, he kind of has to be ruthless. Like, I think the opening chapter of the book is like he's cutting somebody's head off because they deserted or something like that. Something that is hard for them to even control.
See, but the thing is, he's doing it for a greater good, whereas in more of a conspiracy thing, they're doing it to maintain their own power. It's it's a lot more self-serving at best.
I think, no, well, yes, I think you're right. I think everybody in the Game of Thrones sort of justifies themselves that way, saying that it's for the greater good. And I guess some of them are stupider or less apt or less, capable than others. But I sort of get the feeling in Game of Thrones like everybody thinks they're the good guy.
Well, a good storyteller knows that no villain sees himself as the villain. They always see themselves as a hero.
Yeah, and often, like, almost every instance of, like, a king in Game of Thrones has to do something, like, horrible, and then justifies it, saying, well, if I didn't do this, the people would revolt and there would be chaos, right? Almost every, like, because by the end of the second season, there's, like, I don't know, this is why they call it Game of Thrones, because there's, like, 10 kings, 10 claimants to be, like, king of the, or whatever. I don't know. That's a rough count. I might be over counting, but
there's more than just a two-party race going on here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's funny because at the beginning of when you first start reading the book, it feels very much like, this is the king and this is very important, and then as it progresses, it's like, but now here's this other guy. Okay, so now it's a two-side fight, and then now here's this other king claiming, and then
so what you initially think is something set in stone turns out to be a bunch of juggling balls as everything goes up.
Yeah,
and hopefully comes down in some sort of order.
And then, of course, the title of the novel is certainly apt. It's a Game of Thrones. It's,
you win or you die.
Yeah, that's what it is. Well, I hope I didn't spoil too many things with that.
No, I believe that's fairly...
Okay.
Well, that, and if the memes I see online or anything, like the concept of that, somebody might die is not exactly a spoiler.
Yeah.
The only question is when they die.
Yeah, pretty much.
And please don't try picking favorites, because that means they're next. So... but yes, I just think it's a nice notion that in that sort of genre, the conspiracy notion, just abandon the notion of heroes. People may try and make themselves look like good people, like heroes, but there is no true hero in a conspiracy genre.
Yeah, you're probably right. And I suppose that's true of other real-world cases. Well, I don't know why I'm thinking of this, but the leakers, the WikiLeaks people, I mean... they're not exactly heroes. I mean, maybe they did something useful. It's depending on your perspective. Maybe they did something useful for our society by, revealing some sort of thing to all of us.
Revealing dark things from the government that would prefer to have kept hidden.
Yeah.
Even though it seems that they're quite illegal, but no one's deciding to try and prosecute. It's just being aired out, and everyone else sees it, and that's it, I suppose.
Yeah, something like that. And so, yeah, I don't even know if those, like, the leakers, I mean, they're definitely brave, you can say that about them.
Oh, yes.
But are they, are they, I don't know, ideal?
Would they be considered heroes for leaking government secrets?
Yeah, basically breaking oaths and, they, promise to uphold certain oaths and not steal stuff. And
on the other hand, they also promise to follow the law, and, parts of the law says if you see something illegal happening, report it to the authorities.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it brings itself to a hierarchy of which is more important in your list of what I have to do as a member of society. And they're showing, they're revealing an interesting flaw in which a number of people say, follow the government. The government is the highest one you have to do. Versus no, follow the spirit of the laws and follow the moral obligations. And these are starting to force each other against, like a ship and and an iceberg. They're hitting each other at interesting angles.
And that's interesting. And you can have somebody who's despicable in a lot of other ways, and kind of like a villain, basically. You can have a villain who does something heroic at some point. Like they might be a thief.
The jerk who donates to charity, or helps promote really donations to charity.
Could be something like that.
They swear like a sailor and they're willing to do dirty tricks, but they also try and raise money for charity.
That could be a thing.
It's one example, yeah. Robin Hood was legitimately a thief.
Yeah.
Well, that's always the fun thing is looking at it where you see the differences between the people. Because I remember seeing The Night Gallery by Rod Serling and all that.
Uh-huh.
And there was one where there's a moneylender who's charging usurious lending rates. And he winds up getting, put into this own little pocket world of like other dead people that he knew in his youth that wind up like eating him like a zombie, where he'll be trapped forever in eternity. And I'm watching that, I'm thinking, interesting and very nice, very good. On the other hand, the person and people he owed money that owed money to him put him into this situation. They agreed to the lending rates at that amount, and they're doing this to get out of having to pay back. Who's the real villain?
Good question, yes.
So in this case, it's like, oh yes, he's a hero, although a dark hero, for making this person, come to some sort of ironic yet appropriate ending to his life. And I'm seeing it's like, no, he's just trying to get out of paying his debts. He agreed to this. This was a contract he wrote into. So which is the higher obligation?
Yeah, well, it's a good question, and I suppose you gotta ask whether the original contract was fair, or whether they knew what they were signing. But I suppose, assuming they did, then it's sort of they put themselves there. It
seems like they put themselves into this bad situation with a nasty man who's now coming to ask for more money than they could possibly give. Mm-hmm. And so they wind up effectively killing him. And I'm reasonably certain Mr. Serling didn't want this to be like such an in-depth, like who's the bad guy sort of thing, just like nasty, money lender winds up meeting, a nasty fate. But I'm thinking about it, it's like, well, what if you didn't have any supernatural aspect of that? What if the guy had just lured him into the home, poisoned his tea, and then buried him in the basement? The guy still winds up dead. The person winds up not having to pay. Yeah. And unless the cops wind up investigating and finding out what the heck's going on, not going to get caught. Is that really any different?
It might serve as like a cautionary tale, sort of. Imagine if you're joining the money lending profession, and it's like
people are going to hate you even if they agree to these terms.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to blame you.
So it might be an incentive for the moneylender to be like, well, we're going to make extra careful that people don't borrow more than they can pay back, because otherwise they're going to...
Anybody working for Visa should be paying attention to this.
'Cause
the government's been on their tails for the last 2 years about just handing out free. Oh yeah, you're pre-approved. You're pre-approved.
Yeah, and this is a problem. Yeah, we have even, especially in the modern era, with when credit is so widely available. Fortunately,
not as bad as it was back in like 2008 when they were just handing it out. It's like, oh yeah, we'll double it every 4 months for you, for your limit.
Yeah, and fortunately we have some regulations, like you can't break kneecaps if somebody doesn't pay.
Well, thank goodness. I mean, yeah, I'm willing to bet the companies would go for that if they could get away with it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but so that's why back in the day they had to have sort of these, somebody had to write a cautionary tale about, like, if you're that user, maybe you will get away with it in this life, but people will hate you in the afterlife. They'll eat you like zombies.
Or those like you will become trapped in a zombie-like existence and may wind up eating your flesh.
Yeah.
I think he's written better works, honestly. He's told a better story, but this one had an interesting ring to it because, once again, no good guys on there.
Yeah,
and you could really debate as to who's the bad guy.
Sure, yeah.
And yes. It is, because I keep coming back to that in my mind, and I'm thinking, you know what? That just doesn't work as clean cut as like, oh yes, he meets an ironic end. No, he was technically in the rights, at least legally here.
Yeah, and it's like the old adage, which I hate, but when you're in traffic, it's better to be to be wrong than dead, or something like that. Or you can have the right of way, but that doesn't matter if you die or something.
Yes, I do recall. I do recall a couple ones that go along that lines. But I think the story would have worked a little bit better if the guy, I finally killed him, and then he gets like a notice from another person a week later. So and so has disappeared. According to the will and statements, I have bought up his estate, and I now own his business. You still owe this money. Now you owe it to me. And so, like, the moral of the story would have been, just don't get into debt, which would have been a great moral, and that way everybody winds up meeting a horrible fate except for the new guy who's legitimately taken up the bills.
Well, it's possible that the entire tale could be something like a tale about how we're alienated from each other, because this sort of
they're definitely dehumanizing one another. The money lender is seeing them as just a way to get more profits, and they see him as just some like leech draining away their resources and forcing them to abandon what they have. Because honestly, the guy he talks to had a lot of stuff in his house, a lot of old antiques. He could have sold the antiques, raised the money, paid the guy off legit. But no, he wants to keep that stuff because he's a collector, and that's what makes it morally okay for him to kill this person.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it might be just that the real bad guy is sort of modernity, or the fact that we don't live in tiny little villages, or we don't live close-knit with each other anymore. So you can lend from somebody that's
you don't know.
Somebody you don't know, yeah.
Which, on that one, it comes up to its own debate itself, because, is never lend money to friends is an old adage which is fairly well received by most.
Yeah, well, and I sort of live by the thing that, like, if you're not willing to give the money to it, like, if they really needed it, if you're not willing to give the money to your friend, then don't lend it. Like, just
exactly, sort of, yeah. Or work it the other way. Don't lend money to a person if you're willing to give, but don't lend, because that creates a strain on any relationship. And I've seen families get broken under that sort of monetary strain. Like, he never paid me my fair share, and that's why we don't talk to this side of the family anymore.
And it's hard to say that to somebody who you might borrow money from. It's like in your family, it's like, well, I just want you to give me money. But in some ways, I sort of think that, yeah, if you're going to ask for money from your family, just like don't try not to make it up. But that's a whole. I don't know.
Yes, that's probably a topic for its own thing to like the stories and themes you can work off of just as a subgenre of money lending.
Yeah, and funding expeditions. And
oh yes. Like that. Especially in a lot of those like D&D type campaigns where the guy might lend you money to get well equipped, but the chance you'll ever come out alive statistically.
Yeah. And what if you do come back from the dungeon, but you didn't get what there turned out to be no loot or something like that? That could be a problem.
In that case, they might have to just force you to write a story about it, and then they get the rights to the book.
Okay.
There's some rules for that in one of the races of books on money
That'd be
for
like
everything.
gnomes or
Yeah, I think that's that. Yeah, for them writing stories and all that, and what the cost is on a book and
gnomes,
DC checks.
They got Bard as a favorite class in one of the editions.
Well, they just have naturally a lot of culture and charisma and style, and they need to have it to avoid being seen as like Dwarf Junior.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
but yeah, like we said, we're not talking about that topic. I guess we should transition to a main topic.
Well, the main topic is actually a bit of an extension for what I did this week. As I said, I finished off the 4th book in the Wheel of Time series. And instead of hunting down for a used copy, because I cannot find a used copy of a Gibson book anywhere here in Victoria where I can get to, I wound up picking up a fresh new copy of Neuromancer.
Neuromancer by William Gibson.
Yes, wonderful book. I got it for $9 at the local Boland Books. Very nicely done. And I haven't started it though, because I've been told, this is like, if you were going to learn about the cyberpunk genre, especially through the concept of reading the works that people regard as essential, this is near the top of the list, if not at the top.
Sure.
This one, I mean, without this book, we wouldn't have the Shadowrun game.
Mm-hmm.
It's so heavily dependent on it. It is pivotal in there. This is what I expect to be a very strong work of fiction.
Mm-hmm.
But I just got done a strong work of fiction, and so it's like in a different genre. And I was thinking to myself, do I really want to like finish off one book in the in the fantasy section, and then start up the next day in cyberpunk? Because I might have like too much of a mindset going back to the fantasy that when I start reading it, I won't be reading it quite the same way. I won't be as open to the tropes of the genre.
Yeah.
And so I've been thinking to myself, like, how do I cleanse my mental palate after such a strong and flavorful work of fiction?
Well, yes, good question.
This week I've been, aside from working, which is always a good palate cleanser, the harshness of reality. Working on just the brute force Minecraft. I could go back and work on my wonderful, try to make everything stylish and artsy, in my mushroom biome, but no, I want to just cleanse my palate, so basic, chop down, this section of the land here, move that section of the land up there, and repeat. Repeat eternally, and make sure you get some food on the side so you don't starve to death.
That's good. Do you find yourself, when you play Minecraft, are you listening to something, or are you just thinking about what you've read, or what?
Well, see, that's the thing is, I wound up finding through the Meme-Base website a preview for the Borderlands 2 DLC, Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep.
Okay.
And I dig it. I've been listening to that, and unfortunately I found myself in a new, what is effectively very stylized. I haven't actually played the game, but I enjoy listening to the characters speak. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Basically, the expansion DLC turns like a first-person shooter into a hybrid RPG.
Okay.
And I like how she's playing a game with the 3 other characters there, and it's not Dungeons and Dragons, it's bunkers and badasses.
Right. Okay.
But they're effectively playing a game, and she's narrating as the the bunker master, I suppose, and they're playing as their characters, and I enjoy hearing that because it reminds me of the times I've played and just the weirdness associated with it. Like, here's a side quest. The princess wants you to pet her. The princess in this case is a horse made out of diamonds.
Okay. And
the one guy says, "I pet the pretty pony." And it's like, roll to check to see if she loves it. She loves it. And it's just stuff like that. It's like, yeah, I remember doing, fun, weird stuff like that in my game. And so I wind up, I'm just digging my way down to the basement of the map and working my way up to the heights of the map. I'm listening to that. So it's still within the fantasy, but there's guns and stuff in there, so it doesn't work right now as a transition somewhat into a cyberpunk style.
Okay. Yeah.
At least dystopian, with guns, fiction, and then I'm thinking that might wind up being my way, is finding an intermediary to work from A to B to C instead of just A to C directly.
Right. Well, I had a thought that maybe what you might want to do or experiment with is, if in between big, heavy pieces of fiction, maybe you should turn to something like comedy and something that you sort of laugh at, and sort of that, I guess, well, I shouldn't say comedy's easy, because comedy can be quite mentally taxing, because it's like, well, I don't know how.
A lot of people try and figure out where the punchline is before the guy says it.
It might be that, and it might.
That's it. I have been liking the new version of Whose Line Is It Anyways?
Oh yeah, okay. I didn't even know that was on.
Yeah, they brought the three main actors back. They couldn't get Drew Carey. He's busy doing the Price is Right these days. So they got in a new announcer, and she's there. And it's very nice, very funny stuff. Ryan Stiles.
So this is the
Colin Mockery.
The North American version. Anyways.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ryan Stiles, Colin Mockery, and what's his name? The singer.
Wayne Brady?
Wayne Brady, yes. So they're all there, and they're still at the top of their game. They're doing great stuff. I'm enjoying it. That's it. I can't get too far into it. Turns out babies have an instinctual response. Like, if they're not laughing and you laugh, they start crying. I've looked this up online. There's a lot of parents asking this. Why does my baby cry when I start laughing suddenly? Turns out if they're not in a happy laughing mood and you laugh, they, for some reason, cry. There's some interesting mentalities behind it, but I won't get too deep into that now.
Okay.
So
that's cool.
It's a very funny series, and I'm digging it, but I can't laugh out loud like I want to sometimes because that'll make my daughter cry. Harsh.
Well, how much does she cry? Does she like?
Well, that's the thing is she'll look over at me and then she'll just belt one out, just crying, and it's like it gets kind of loud sometimes. She's starting to really work on her vocal range, so it's getting louder than it was last week. I don't want to disturb the neighbors that way. It's like if she cries, I want it to be because she fell on her bum while she was trying to walk. Get a legitimate excuse, not because Daddy laughed. What's going on?
Okay, yeah.
So I've been trying that. That's it. I do have a book from 1986, the Amazing Stories. They used to have just short fiction. Mm-hmm. And I've been reading into one of that. It's not exactly the best stuff, but it's nice short fiction, so I was thinking if that might work as a nice little palate cleanser.
Right, and the short fiction sort of resolves itself quickly.
Sets up a situation, comes to denouement, and ends, and hey, look, I still got enough time for all this other stuff in the day.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm trying that. That said, I have to sit down and finish off the one story and go on to the next one and work a little bit more. I like bringing it with me. If I can drop my wife off at work, drop my kid off at the babysitter's early enough, I have 5-10 minutes before I need to go into work. I can just sit in the car, put on some nice classic music in the background, and just do a little light reading.
Now,
it's usually provided traffic's all right, though.
Sure, yeah. Probably either way you do it, though, even if you do cleanse your palate, I think you probably learned some sort of attitude from the book from the Wheel of Time series that you sort of will carry on to whatever fiction you read next.
And that's that's what I'm worrying about. If I want to read Neuromancer and get the full experience, I want to have the cleansed palate. I don't want to have the tropes, the mentalities that are always necessarily associated with fiction, like in the sci-fi, fiction, versus the fantasy fiction. I don't want to go into Neuromancer and say, he's a wizard. I want to think, no, this is working in what's supposed to be a realistic type future. What is going on here? What's the technology answer behind it?
Okay, yeah.
So,
I remember it was always more fun to read books after, when I was in university, after reading literature criticism classes, because that sort of the way to read was fresh in my mind. Is what's behind this, or what's the what does this really mean? What's the symbolism? And I think if you're not in that mindset, I think you miss some of that. I mean, some of it you still get because you learn how to think that way, and you sort of.
So then, might that be a way? Is read something technical? If you're working between works of fiction, you intersperse it with something nice and technical, and that makes your head switch gears, and all of a sudden you're thinking okay, this is how the structure goes. This is I could go back to reading more of the Understanding comics, and then just looking at it that way. And then I go on to the thing, and read another deep work of fiction.
Or just read lots of TV tropes.
That's the thing, is I wind up staying up till 3 a.m. sometimes on that. Just got to finish the page, but why is the page so long?
Weren't you saying that, though, about when you were deep into Wheel of Time, you were reading that very late into the night? And same with Game of Thrones, too.
Well, that said, once my daughter goes to sleep, that's when I can finally relax and do, the reading here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, if it's a good work of fiction, it's like just one more chapter. I just got to figure out what happens. What's going on next here? Will they get caught? Will they get free? What happens? I need to know.
Yeah. Well, how much of the story do you usually retain a lot of details from stories? Because I have read books that I'll finish the book and I'll be like, I don't remember anything from that book.
I do try to, especially because this is a 14-book series. If I pick up book 5 and I'm like, who's this person? This name seems somewhat familiar, because not all names are necessarily in the back.
Right.
And so I'll be, like, oh, let's see, what was that? What was that? And I don't want to do a quick Google search, because that might be way too many spoilers. What, he dies in book 7? Oh! Damn. Okay, maybe technically you can call it my fault for not having read the books when they were fresh and new, before the internet was out and big.
Well, when were they published?
That's the thing, is it says, Look for the Fires of Heaven, coming out in hardcover, 1995.
So you would have been...
15.
15.
Yeah. It was there. I remember seeing the covers at the local bookstore. That said I was working myself through the Dragonlance series of novels, and there was a lot of those to go through.
Okay.
I'm only one man with limited financial resources.
Yeah, at 15, I was reading all the Star Wars. Like, there was a really big, a big push on publishing Star Wars novels. Spoiler
alert for you, everything you've read is not considered valid or canonical. Now that Disney owns it, they're basically taking the movies, and that's... Oh, yeah, the 6 movies, I'm not even sure if the Ewok movies are going to count as canon.
Oh, okay.
So, I don't know if they count as canon even before Lucas sold them.
That's funny, because like you read forums and stuff, and people often will say that, oh, the perfect sequel is like
the Yu Zong Vong future, where they get the invaders from outside the galaxy.
Oh yeah.
From what I've been told, it sounds like a good series, but apparently they're going a different way.
Not all of the novels are great, but there are a couple of them that people really like, and they're like, this would make a great movie. Probably would. But
you can only do one future when you're doing this sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I guess novels. It's a hard thing because not everyone reads them, and like even the writers of the next film probably won't have been able to read the entire
the entire body of written fiction. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, do you have any fears about J.J. Abrams doing that, like directing the next movie?
Yeah, I haven't really liked anything I've seen J.J. Abrams do.
I won't deny him the fact that he is very technically proficient. I don't quite like what he's doing with the whole, the sunspot in the camera style. There's always a light source in the background that causes the whole ray light and the lens flares.
Yeah.
I'm not big on that.
I never even noticed those, and I'm glad I don't, because I know it bugs people, and it's sort of, I wish that people wouldn't say it bugs them, because then it'll be like in my brain next time I go see a movie.
Well, it's just that what gets me is that he's technically proficient, but I haven't seen him display the sense of style that George Lucas made into a wonderful thing. Like George Lucas's oddly reliant use of swipes between scenes. Mm-hmm. Oh no, Han Solo's frozen in carbonite, and then it's a star swirl. Oh, now we're up onto this next part here, and Luke's doing something, and then it's a side swipe clean to the new scene, and that marks style. Most people don't even realize they notice it. But if you ever look at like a parody of the thing, like I'm writing this, it's episode 7 parody, ha ha ha. Mm-hmm. If they do it right, they'll mention the scene swipes this way to here, it swipes that way to there, and that's how it transitions. Then you realize, yes, that's actually how he's been doing it for 6 movies.
No, I did notice the swipes. I sort of had forgotten about it, but I saw the swipes in the prequels too. And
that's the sort of thing I fear will get lost in someone who's technically proficient but hasn't shown the full gamut of style. Because let's face it, some of the stuff that George Lucas did, people ridicule him for, but the stuff he got right and when he applied style, they're beautiful.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I like the universe that he created with all the aliens and monsters and cool stuff, and the heroes. It's very I just
It's great, and I fear that'll get washed out if they don't get just the right combination of writer director. That's my only fear. J.J. Abrams is probably better than, like, you know, and if you were to get a list of the random directors in Hollywood roll on the table, he's at least better than half of the random roles. I'll say that.
Well, I guess at least he's a sci-fi guy. He's got that.
Yes.
For him.
But that said, I still haven't seen the style. I would like to see.
Well, I don't know. I imagine that he probably would put in the swipes, but I don't see the swipes as that big of a deal, or the wipe swipes. Yeah. Anyways.
But that's the sort of thing that, I mean,
the little
you can watch 50 different you know, space soap operas sort of thing, you know, space operas, and you know you're watching, you know, the Star Wars stuff when they do the swipe, because that's the only one that does the swipe so reliantly.
Yeah, and I can see what you like if you pay attention to the little, like, it's another old adage, which I can't remember where it comes from. If you pay attention to the cents, then the dollars will work out themselves. Sort of, you pay attention to those little details, and then the rest will fall in line.
Yeah. But that's my one worry on that thing.
Your one worry is whether he'll do correct.
Well, whether or not he'll capture the little bits about it that really mark it as being this is the world that we're in. I want to see a fake, you know, Muppet alien in the background, you know, in the scenes. I don't want to see the CGI stuff. That's what I think Lucas got wrong, is putting the CGI aliens in there. I think the Muppet aliens were a great example of what's going on. You don't see the Muppet aliens anywhere in the Star Trek series. It's a human being with a funny shaped forehead. That's how you know it's Star Trek, not Star Wars. Funny-headed aliens.
Yeah, that's true. And Star Trek is
they do have
lower budget than Star Wars.
And grittier, too. And that's one of the things I want to make sure, like, the grand, you know, high-up clean stuff, you know, like where the Emperor stays, where, you know, the Jedi Council is, that's clean. Everywhere else seems to have just a little bit of a grit and grime on it. It's not so polished and utopian a future for everybody.
Yeah, that's true. You're saying Star
Trek very much has that, unless you're going to like a colony world where, oh yes, it's still a rough life. We only have replicators for half our meals.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and Star Trek is based on sort of this military model where it's everything is ship-shape and.
Well, that's the thing. But you see like the Earth in Star Trek, and it's wonderful. It's a utopia. Yeah. That's what it's supposed to show. Is that humankind will one day be able to overcome their problems and create a utopian society where everybody's only limitation will be on what they can strive to be for. Mm-hmm. You can't be better than what you want to be. Mm-hmm. That's kind of beautiful in a way. I love that.
For sure.
And that's why seeing a gritty part of Star Trek just doesn't seem right to me.
Well, yeah,
seeing corruption within, you know, the Federation, it's like, oh, that kind of ruins the thing a little bit. It's like an apple with a rotten core. It's like, oh.
Yeah, I guess they do that every once in a while, don't they? They have like a corrupt Federation officer.
But it usually gets corrected by the end of the episode. And that, but when it's something prolonged, like I know Deep Space Nine had like the Section 13 doing like dark deeds to preserve the Federation. Didn't quite like that myself because it went against the utopian work towards your ideals mentality I'd seen before.
Yeah, and I suppose it's not really believable when, you know, in a world where you don't actually lack for anything. Like, why would you need to turn?
What's the thing is they were doing the evil deeds to stop the other empires that were up against them, the Romulans, the Klingons, the whoever it is was focusing on for the arc there. Yeah. The Dominion over in the other quadrant on the other side of the wormhole. And that never got me as big because like, that wasn't the style. Like if you watch, 50 different space operas and you see a military that's clean, efficient, doesn't swear, and is like oddly, like optimistic about everything they're coming in contact with, even to the point of almost ludicrousness, well, then you're in Star Trek worlds.
I guess so. I never. That's funny because it never even occurred to me that.
But you know it when you hear it, and that's what marks it, and that's how you know you're in there, and that's why I fear sometimes, like when they do a reboot, will they maintain the proper themes that let you know you're in this one?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well,
are things kind of ridiculous? Are jokes running wild while the adventure goes high? Congratulations, you're with Doctor Who in the TARDIS.
Okay.
So each of them has a flavor, and
Yeah, and you think that's pretty important. You don't think it's good enough to tell a good story.
Well, that's the thing is, it's not that hard to tell a good story, but to keep a theme going between the stories you tell for so many seasons across so many series or so many movies, that's a good challenge. And if you can get that right, I think you deserve a spot, in the mark of fiction history. That's why you're remembered. If you don't get it, right, or you keep switching your theme up, it seems muddied, diluted, and just there's less focus.
Yeah,
and
I can believe that.
Unconsciously, people will respond to that.
Yeah, I suppose. Well, and I suppose, like, if you're really artistic, you could tell very different stories, and yet, because, I mean, the fact is the real world has all these different themes and stories in it, and our real planet, like, there's no way a single theme could encompass all the stories.
Bjork musically does great work by switching up themes and styles. She's done stuff like, I don't even know if it technically qualifies under everyone's opinion of music. And other times she sings beautiful melodies. Other times it's got a nice, pop flavor to it. And then, now she's singing traditional Icelandic nursery rhymes.
But in a way, I almost see this as, almost all these people pretending to be one artist. It's like, because if you see the entire world sort of through one person, and write a series of novels or something like that, you're always going to have that one person's perspective, even if you're fairly well read or that one person. So you don't have to worry about if it's all one person doing all the work. But then when it's a team, it's like, okay, now we have to work on this unity of vision, because there's somebody over here who's only heard part of the story who's like, oh, I'm going to tell this other story.
And that is one of the problems I sometimes have, like, watching a cartoon series. Mm-hmm. Is for a number of them, it won't be like a person sits down and says, okay, we've got 13 episodes this season, and this is like a little theme we're going to work out through the arc, and they establish the whole thing, and then they cut them up into individual episodes. Versus, okay, we're writing the next season. Who's got what for a script, and then everybody piles it together. You can see this sometimes in certain seasons with like The Simpsons.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Homer will sometimes be a buffoon. Sometimes he'll be jerk-ass Homer.
Yes.
Sometimes he'll be a caring parent. Other times he'll be a heavy alcohol abuser. Mm-hmm. And when you see that over the course of several seasons, it does kind of meld into one concept of a character. Mm-hmm. But let's face it, not everyone's going to have as many seasons as The Simpsons do to let that all coalesce.
Yeah. Well,
and so you wind up with the concept of almost what's considered like a fractured view, looking at it through broken glasses. It almost all fits together, but occasionally you'll notice there's a little discrepancy between it. The person's a little more, we'll say, the protagonist A in this one, a little too competitive. Mm-hmm. In the other one, it's okay, they're having fun, playing horseshoes with someone. And the other one, they're going to take it to the next level, man. If they lose, they get angry. No, other one, they don't even seem to care, and that causes a fracture in the personality.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, and it's almost the weird thing that the character would be unified, because, like, I think Family Guy goes a little bit further into it. Like, Peter basically does whatever's appropriate for the joke.
Yes, like, the rule of funny.
It's not
really what
the character
rules.
Doesn't have to be consistent, although he has certain character traits. But it's often just, and sometimes like the characters will die, or something like they'll be horribly injured, in the next scene they're fine. But
that's the thing, is as long as they establish it, this is a comedy, and what the only thing that really focuses here for hardcore rules is the rule of funny. Did it work for the joke? Okay, fine. Then Brian Griffin now has a son who's technically 6 years older than him.
Yeah.
But explanation: dog years. So.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, at another end of the spectrum is with the Gary Larson's characters, who, like, it'll be, the same sort of, the same fat kid appears in several different comics, but in one he's, eaten by lions. In another one he's like, I don't know.
He's just getting picked on the school bus.
Yeah. Stuff like that. So it looks like the same character, but it's obviously, it's a different story, but it's all in the service of...
Well, I know there's online, David Willis, he does about 3 or 4 different, all at the same time, web comics.
Concurrent.
Yes, all concurrent. And in one of them, Dumbing of Age, I believe it is, all the characters from the other series are being used, but they're all technically different characters, are all them set in a college setting. In which case, his explanation for it is, no, they're not supposed to be the same person. Consider it as they're all actors being effectively typecast into the same persona.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, for like stuff like Gary Larson, it's the same fat kid, but he's not really dying. It's just, that's what he's doing for this week on the joke, and then, okay, we're done with that. I get to go home for the day. It's all acting.
Yeah.
In a meta level, I suppose you can assume it.
Do you remember when Bart goes to live with Mr. Burns, and Mr. Burns hires doubles to play his family?
Yes, and they're very badly done. He doesn't say, he says, "Go!" Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
That was good stuff. And a nice highlight, because, the characters are done, crudely enough, naturally, and they show enough variation in their personality. It winds up being that, you can have even a family member look at them and say, oh, yeah, okay, I guess that's them. They're acting close enough.
Yeah. Boo.
Of course, if you work it even further, on the line of this whole thing.
Further.
Yes, if you extend this out to the realm of 60 years, like Superman, Batman, then you have what can be shown as like effectively dial settings. Mm-hmm. Like Superman, you can have a dial setting for how alien versus how human is he.
Yeah, sure.
You can have him with a dial like how is he in accordance to the law, or is he like a rebel going against breaking laws? Originally, when Superman was first out, he'd do something like break into a corrupt governor's mansion, turn the governor over his knee, and spank him for doing like something corrupt. And then, later on in like the 80s, 90s, he was effectively a detective, he qualified as a detective with the GCPD. Or no, not Gotham City. It'd be the MPD, the Metropolis Police Department. So whatever he did was legitimized because he's like effectively a member of the police force.
I see, yes.
It didn't prevent him from doing some things like just going out and smacking Luthor around for his latest dickery. Because, because then Luthor can sue the cops. So there were some interesting things there. But, because Superman's done this so far in so many different ways throughout the decades, you can effectively just move the dials on him. He's still Superman just as much as, on the extreme at one end and as he is on the other. But he's very different. So in that case, he becomes a storytelling device as much as he is a character.
Well, what about there are Superman analogs in other comics? I forget what the.
Oh, there's a number of them. Some of them stick, some of them don't.
Yeah, and so these stories. I mean, how close can they get to Superman? Like, can they actually overlap with the traits of Superman in some cases?
That's an interesting thing. Is most copyright law says like within 25%, but that's for written works, like before it qualifies as being copyright infringement. But how do you do that for power sets? Like, okay, he can fly, he has super strength, and he can see a far ways away, but his eyes don't have an extra crispy setting, and he can't do this, that, or freeze people with his breath.
I wonder. Someone must have thought about that, and there probably is a rule, but I don't know what it would be.
That's the thing, is it almost an art call on part of the judge as to whether or not it seems too close. Mm-hmm. Captain Marvel wound up becoming part of DC Universe because he got sued for being too close to Superman.
Right.
Even though his origins are different and his power set comes from a different source, he's a strong man with a cape. And a lot of the stuff that he did wound up getting copied by Batman, Superman, and the others to create like the families. Oh. The Mary Marvel became, they copied that for Batgirl and Supergirl. And then before there was Robin, before there was Superboy, before there was, Wonder Girl, there was Captain Marvel Jr. So he wound up predating them, and yet he was still seen as too close, and the legal eye company winds up having to give him over.
Huh. So, I guess, that's just...
Even though a smart judge who had enough resources to look at the timelines probably could have said, no, you're copying them, and that's my official ruling, and that could have meant that Superman would have been owned by DC, would have been owned by Fawcett Comics, or whatever it was that originally owned Captain Marvel.
Interesting.
Very interesting. There's a lot of things.
I never knew that.
Like, I remember when City of Heroes first came out, they were sued by Marvel, because you could have very closely create a lot of the Marvel characters that way. You can create Wolverine in there. On the other hand, it wound up being that they created a character that was as close to Wolverine as possible to show, and that wasn't admissible as evidence because of weird technicalities in the law.
Okay, so the Marvel people.
The Marvel people did it to show. It's like, yeah, I can create a guy with claws coming out. He can have there was a lot of stuff you could do with costumes there. So you could create a guy that looks really close to Wolverine for that. And yeah, he's got the regeneration. He's got, the claws abilities. I can effectively create Wolverine. And the judge goes, but you created it and not just like a regular customer, so that doesn't count.
Okay.
So there's some very weird quirks in that system of copyright law. Not the least because of pandering to special interest groups, like the companies who wound up using the law to sue.
Well, I like the thought that our tools in the modern era, our tools are our cultural, like what we experience, is stuff that the user creates. Mm. So you can do something like recreate. This is especially true in Minecraft. People do like, oh, here's the Starship Enterprise. Oh, here's this, here's that. Did you hear about this case a few months ago? Putt Putt Golf tried to sue Mojang Entertainment or whatever, Mojang.
Yeah.
Putt Putt Golf tried to sue them because some user had created a map and distributed of a golf course which they called Putt Putt Minecraft or something like that. Minecraft Putt Putt. So Putt Putt sent a cease and desist letter to Mojang, who had nothing to do with that particular map.
In those cases, I believe it's just I have to send a cease and desist letter, otherwise I lose standing in copyright law. If you don't at least rattle your sabers, so to speak, you wind up losing your rights to that in the future. So, in this case, Marvel, versus the City Heroes, they pretty much had to say, oh, you can do this just to raise a fuss, because if they didn't, another person could wind up creating a copy of Wolverine in their own written stuff and say, well, you know what? You didn't sue for these guys, you can't sue for us, and that actually has legal grounds, which is odd, really odd. So they have to at least go through the motions to look like they're preserving their copyright status.
Oh, and you know what else? Like, this is funny, too. This might be interesting to other people who listen to podcasts. So, there was a guy who tried to copyright the whole idea of podcasts. Or was it copyright or trademark or whatever? He tried to say that he owned it, and then that everybody who had ever done a podcast owed him money.
There's some interesting stuff about that with faxes and scanners, where they're basically a troll corporation.
Yeah.
Says we own the rights, and anybody who wants to use Xerox is going to have to pay us $1,000. So we're not going after the companies. We're going at, that make the Xerox, that make the photocopiers. We're going after the companies that are using them.
Yeah.
So
well, that might be a better tactic.
And that's meeting a lot of angry judges, because the judges in America are getting really fed up about this. If you want a good example, look up Prenda Law.
Prenda Law. Okay.
Oh my goodness, these guys, the judges are just going to town on them on a biblical scale for the amount of jackassery they tried to get away with.
Right. And like in some ways I think that the tactic, where I can understand the tactic, because it's like, well, we'll go after the companies because a lot of them will just say, okay, that's
it's
another
cheaper
expense.
To cough it up rather than pay the lawyers
whatever.
To fight.
Their accounting person's like, well, yeah, $1,000, we spend that much on photocopies anyways, so
that's basically our coffee budget in this building for a month. We'll switch to the cheaper coffee that 6 months down the road we'll pay it off, go back to the regular coffee.
Although I'd imagine like once it catches up to that company, then it's like, oh, well, you've been doing that, okay.
And that's the thing, is they're with Prenda Law situation, is they're going to have to pay back a lot of the stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's a fun story to read because it's a bunch of bad people having bad things happen to them.
Ah, good. No good guys. Well, I guess I don't know.
What's the thing is,
people in this?
The closest they get to innocent is people illegally downloading porn for personal viewing processes, and then they wind up getting sued. It's like, hey, you illegally did this. We have the rights to the distribution. You either pay us the money, or we'll let everybody in your home area know you download pornography. And there's a lot going on as to who actually owns what, whose signature. There's been copied signatures, forged signatures. Dummy shell corporations, and the judges. I'm almost willing to send an I love you letter to this judge. This judge is basically saying, I've had enough with your horse crap, and I'm going to call you on every bit of it. Like, you didn't show up in court today despite the fact I told you to. You thought it'd be good enough just to phone it in? No, get in here, $1,000 a day for every day you're not in. I'm going to bankrupt you this way. Just get up and show it professionally. Beautiful stuff.
It's funny, for a smaller or a mid-level company, and probably this particular company that would matter. But there are companies out there who are like $1,000 a day. Okay, we'll pay that.
Well, that's the thing. It's $1,000 a day, not from the company, from the people who aren't showing up. They personally have to pay. So $1,000 out of your pocket a day, personally, that's what gets people in. Even if they're rich, it still hurts.
Yeah.
Because it's their pocketbook, not the company's.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fun.
I guess on an individual level there are probably people. Although some
even
rich
people. I mean, $1,000 a day being penalized, it still winds up hurting. Just the principle of it, and that's what the judge is getting them on.
I don't know if I was rich enough to. Like, how rich would I have to be?
Bill Gates could probably laugh it off, but he seems like a good enough guy. He'd still come on in if ordered to. People give him a lot of flack, but he's a decent guy from everything I've seen. The amount of money he's given off to AIDS and cancer research alone indicates he's a good guy.
I think so. Yeah.
There's an objective scale of how good he is. It's how much money he's given.
I suppose. I mean, I don't know. Like,
not a lot of people have that objective. That's the thing is he still winds up giving more money to these charities than everybody else on Earth combined. In some respects.
But I guess if his business practices are bad, then he makes up for it by the charity. So,
or at least he balances even karmically.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. But okay, so going back up a few tangents. Now that we've established that each setting has its own fictional flavor to it.
Sure. Yeah.
What do you think? Like sometimes people get ice cream cones with 2-3 different kinds of scoops of ice cream on there.
Okay.
So is there a way to properly stack different flavors of genres? Okay, tonight I got about an hour and a half of free time, so we're going to watch an episode of this, followed by an episode of that, followed by an episode of the third show, and they will all blend together in a wonderful melange. Because the Sunday stuff for the cartoons on Fox has something like that. They had Family Guy, Simpsons, King of the Hill, and whatever else. For a while they had the X-Files. And that worked out interesting for me back in the day. Would that be considered like the triple scoop or quadruple scoop ice cream of fiction flavors?
Yeah, I suppose so. And in some ways, like if you have an overarching theory of cartoons, like something that can explain all three, like sort of what I was trying to do with saying that maybe they're not the same characters every time, or maybe they're both named Homer but they're not doing the same thing. So if you apply that sort of theory to all three cartoons, you can sort of consume them all as, they're all kind of jokey and whatever. But if, on the other hand, if you're very immersed in each show, and you're like, Simpsons, like the universe of the Simpsons, all the names of the characters,
let's face it, the more people know more about the Simpsons and their neighborhood than they know about their own neighborhood in real life.
Yeah, exactly. All the layout, who Bart's teacher is Mrs. Krabappel.
The people, the characters there more than your neighbors in many cases.
Yeah. And then if you switch over from, being very immersed in that environment to be like, okay, now here's Family Guy, and maybe you haven't watched as much Family Guy as you watched. Well,
they haven't got as full a group. They just haven't had as many seasons to come up with the extra side characters and second, third tier characters in there.
Now, I suppose
that takes time.
You can react in one of two ways. You can say, "Oh my, this is so different. This is so so refreshing to see, how differently Chris." Because Chris feels more real to me than Bart. Like Chris feels like he's.
You could see him as a real sort of teen.
Yeah, he seems like a real kid.
A little over the top, but definitely more realistic than Bart is.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, when Bart first came out, he seemed very it's like nobody on TV showed kids acting like Bart. Like talking back to his parents was a big deal. Like, don't have a cow, man, to his dad. It's like, how can you?
What does a cow mean, and how dare he say that?
So it's funny because Bart Simpson was so revolutionary, and then, in Family Guy, Chris and Stewie are way more expressive and
counter-expressive, I believe,
or counter-expressive because Chris, his reactions are very even keel, except
for the occasional what? to really emphasize.
Yeah, or when he's scared of the monkey that's in his closet.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I think Seth, MacFarlane knows that every once in a while, they're just going out of left field from what you regularly see really gets much more of a reaction than they're always that far out.
Yeah.
So when Meg Griffin winds up being the brunt of all the jokes until she finally tells her father to just as she swears at him, just horribly and just really calls him out on being just a horrible person. I loved it. It was so great. It was just amazing. I won't say the words because we want to keep this clean.
Yeah.
But she really called him down on that, and it's like, wow. She finally stood up and said, "My God, the use of the language there, brilliant." And then she winds up going up to be the proverbial butt monkey for the rest of the family and the brunt of their jokes. So that one, just wing it out and just that one quick punch, beautiful.
But I remember, okay, so that's the one reaction, is it's very different and it's refreshing. But another reaction is that I remember watching Family Guy and thinking, like, I thought Homer was fat. Like, I thought Homer was a big guy. And here's, like, Peter is like 3 times Homer's size.
Well, so that's the thing is Homer looks big and round, but his weight, according to what they've seen for the episode when he's dieting, he really shouldn't be that round. There's some sort of comedic roundness as opposed to what you see in real life roundness.
Okay.
Like a person who weighs as much as Homer did there is generally not going to be as big as they show him. Like when he ballooned up to 300 pounds, it's like you could barely, even reach his hands down to his belt level. He was huge, massive, almost spherical.
That should probably be more like 500 or 600.
Closer to 600, yeah.
And then Peter, like if you look at him, the cartoon, he's probably like pushing 500 or something like that. If that's all all.
But that's the cartoonishly exaggerated bulk
yeah.
to that. So there's something to be said about what is shown versus what is real. Because let's face it, if everybody drew it perfectly to life, then why are you even drawing it? Why don't you just get actors to act it out and just have it be that real?
Yeah, I suppose. But that's the thing, when you switch from one sort of universe, you're sort of immersed in The Simpsons. You're like, okay, I believe that people can be yellow and they have 3 fingers on each hand. I believe that. And then you get shifted over to a different universe. It's like, oh, well, that's wrong. Like cartoons shouldn't have pink skin or whatever it happens to be. It's like, it's jarring.
And then you wind up switching over to the X-Files, and it's like, whoa, it's totally real. And it's like, this isn't for funny at all, man. There might be a joke like once or twice an episode at most, but no, by and large, it's creepy and scary, or at least suspenseful.
Mm-hmm. Another fun transition is when you switch from like American or Canadian TV to British.
Oh, yes.
And
yes.
like either drama or comedy, whichever it happens to be. And you see this, with The Office, because you see, obviously it's the same inspiration. But
that's an interesting thing, because they have The Office with a British style, they have it for the American style, and they actually have the Canadian one for it.
I think it's French, right?
No, it's English for the Canadian one.
Do we have a Canadian The Office?
Well, we did. I don't know how many seasons it wound up producing, but I know it was there. I recognize some of the actors in there.
Huh. I'll have to look that up, and if I find it, I'll put a link in.
I think it may have been all in black and white style, too.
Oh, cool. Okay, maybe it didn't last long, yeah.
I'd have to double check on that. It may even be by a different name, but it was very much the spiritual copy over.
Okay. What was the one where they have the Tragically Hip song in the beginning? It's like The Newsroom, or is it?
Might be, yeah.
Do you remember The Newsroom?
Vaguely.
Okay, anyways. That was similar style of comedy, I think.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of then.
Like
I said, it's just something, just so far back for me.
Yeah.
Go back and forth between them. But yes, you can watch between the two, so you can see like an American-Canadian divide, and then go British, which is very different in some cases.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, heck, their comedy even alone works on almost entirely different wavelengths than American comedy.
Yeah, exactly.
But, whether or not dressing up as a woman is inherently funny is a matter for the viewer. But, Hugh Laurie, and Stephen Fry make it absolutely hysterical sometimes. And I don't know how they do it, because if you were to write out the scene, it wouldn't be as funny. But it plays up on stage.
Yeah.
And then you go with the wackiness of the Monty Python style.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing, like, there's a very big difference between written scripts and what actually gets produced, and sometimes it really amazes me that things get produced at all when, you know,
it looks so flat on paper.
Well, yeah, there has to be a scripting process somehow, and how did this get to where it was from just being on paper? So it's very interesting. I think.
So I think this has been going on for what, an hour and a half now?
We got another 10 minutes.
10 minutes? Okay, so then. Well, I'm just thinking about like a nice conclusion on this then. So to my problem as to cleansing my palate.
Okay. Yeah.
So is there anything you personally advise, or do you just go like whole hog from one to the other?
Well, realistically, I think the only answer is time. I think gradually you sort of, you can't really do anything about it. You just naturally sort of float out of whatever mindset you were in. You learn. Hopefully, you learned something. Hopefully, you did take. That's the thing.
I like to imagine that. Yeah.
We wouldn't read fiction or stories of any kind if we didn't actually internalize some of it.
Well, there is always the escapist fiction, in which case you're just reading it to, you know, believe yourself to be some other idealized person, and then when that's done, whatever.
But I mean, I think it's just like eating a big meal. It's like, do you cleanse your palate? I guess you cleanse your palate with dessert or whatever, but the meal just has to be digested.
But what do you do when you find yourself at the buffet? Do you have a cleanser between, you know, each course that you go for?
Okay. So when you're at the buffet, what do you do? Maybe you just have a drink of water, or, you know, pop, or.
So what's the literary equivalent of water, pop, or tea then? Like television? You know, just like zone out for a few days, just watching whatever you can find on good TV?
I wonder. I suppose a literary equivalent of water would be something that's not that exciting, but it's good for you.
That would be the technical stuff then, like reading up stoicism on Wikipedia.
Well, I was thinking like maybe, you know, your news feed might be something like that you get.
Although that tends to be a little depressing, so that would be sour flavored water. It's like it's like lemonade maybe sometimes, a little bitter.
Yeah, maybe that's your coffee. I don't know.
Okay, I can see that working too. Yeah, but I mean, because sometimes I try listening to just music. Get myself. I'm just going to listen to funk music from the 70s now, and that's what I'm doing for tonight.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to work quite so well, because I've been listening to like specific genres, with the headphones on for a couple of days, for music styles, and it's just not still cleansing. I'm still mentally, when I start reading, in the world of the third age of the Wheel of Time.
Well, maybe that's a sign. Well, a sign from your brain telling you, or your subconscious. Maybe you do need to, I don't know, you need to process it more. Maybe you do need to think about it. Because, I mean, in school, they taught us to do a report after you write a book. And you're kind of doing a report, in a way, on this podcast by reporting out what you've read.
It's hard to do a report when you can't give away spoilers.
That's true, yeah. Maybe they taught us that in school for a reason. Maybe we're supposed to, write book reports on all the books.
The book report is the equivalent of like digesting it in the stomach? Yeah,
I think so. And it sort of solidifies your thoughts and what you feel you got out of it. And so there. I think that's my answer. If you want a palate cleanser, do a bit of writing. Do a bit of just analysis.
I like that. So instead of just consuming the fiction, make a little bit of myself.
True. Well, it doesn't even have to be fiction, but it can be analysis, but that can also be what it can be.
Any kind of writing, so long as it's instead of just going with input, you go output. Although that does kind of work itself into the equivalent of vomiting within our metaphor here, which we do not condone.
Or pooping, for that matter, I suppose.
Well, that's the thing is if
I have heard writing compared to poop a lot.
Well, that's the thing is if a book is considered food and you're creating stuff, I don't want anybody consuming that if we're calling it, going up.
Yeah, we should finish this metaphor.
Yes, I think we've hit the logical. The logical extensions of this metaphor have hit boundaries.
Okay.
Like, I am still working on ideas and concepts and things going on for the story I wanted to write last year for the NaNoWriMo.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still working on that in little bits, and I get wonderful ideas and I write them up. And that seems to be doing nice. If nothing else, I'm putting it down on paper so I don't forget about it. I'd hate to forget a good idea.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So I'm thinking about that. But so you're saying what I really have to do is sit down then and just come up with chapter 1, or at least the outline therefore, to help focus myself elsewhere, and then now that it's out, I've gotten it out onto some paper and it's there. My mental palette is cleansed. I can go on to cyberpunk.
Well, yeah, and I'm not saying it necessarily has to be any particular.
It seems like a very good
kind
idea,
of,
though.
There you go. Yeah, and I should take that too. Like sometimes I do that just naturally. Like I did that with Zealot. I like wrote a little piece. I mean, it's just basically journaling. It's just for myself. It's like, oh, what do I really think of this? Like, what did I take away from it, and what is my thoughts now on the life of, in this case, it was like the Jesus of Nazareth guy, and like what do I think actually happened? Because a lot of times in like historical books and stuff, it's like, well, historians don't actually know whether this is true or whether it really happened or didn't. So I sort of have to think to myself, like, what do I think?
I like to imagine he did flip out at the temple. Because, I mean, it's one of the big scenes where he shows real passion. It's a real good character point.
Yeah. Well,
money changers in the house of my father. This makes Jesus angry. Rah, flips tables.
I'll tell you, this is one of the reasons why I like this book. It was because he did go into that scene, but he painted it as he went in there because the day before that he comes into Jerusalem with a throng of people, right?
Uh-huh.
They're waving palm branches. They're saying Hosanna and this. They're like proclaiming him basically king. So he goes into town. He's got all these followers with him. So when he goes into the temple, the reason he's able to chase the moneylenders out, go crazy.
It's not just one man going crazy.
It's not just one guy. He's got basically armed thugs with him. Or I'm not sure.
Jesus with armed thugs. I kind of like that image.
So I don't know if he used the word thugs, but that's essentially because they're these big old burly fishermen and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, fishermen do not have like small tiny wrists, man. You got to really haul that catch up because you don't got cranes back then.
Exactly. So it was almost like a military takeover of the temple, basically.
That looks pretty badass. I still like the concept of Jesus just flipping tables.
He probably did that too. Like that's probably.
I'm just seeing that meme image that they keep using where a guy flips the table, and then I'm just seeing the long brown Jesus hair going on there.
Yeah, or I don't know. I wonder how hands-on Jesus was, because that's not really explained. But do you think, I'm thinking maybe Jesus just sort of stood there and he's like, you turn that table over, you open that cage and let those doves out and fly around and cause chaos.
Ooh, doves flying around in the background. Now I see him fighting people. Like old John Woo or Mission Impossible style.
Yeah, the dove in slow motion.
As Jesus jumps towards the table, the moneylender coming at him the other way, swinging bags of coin. Oh, yeah. And this is why they should never write religious figures in Hollywood, because that's what the movie of Jesus would wind up being like if it was done purely by Hollywood.
Well, if they didn't already have sort of this, the Christian idea, because a lot of times if Hollywood is like, oh, we'll do a Jesus film, and they'll be like, oh, well, blah, 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 I'll use all the tropes that are already in there, and he's like, oh, yeah, he's quiet like a lamb and all this stuff, and this one time he flips out of the temple, and that's kind of weird, and nobody understands why he does it. Well, in this book, that's the central event, because that's what happened. After that is when he gets crucified, because he's like, oh, well, that you disrupted the temple, so that's why you die, because you basically tried to take over Israel by taking over the temple, because the temple is the spiritual.
Oh yes, I remember seeing a number of stuff on that as to how important it was.
Yeah, and he says something like, I'm going to tear this temple down and then rebuild it, and then they're like, oh, okay, well, you can't tear the temple down if you're dead, so we kill you.
He was talking metaphorically. And what surprises me about history is there's all these people talking in really good metaphors, and then every once in a while it's like, no, that was fairly clearly a metaphor. Why did everyone take them literally? Were you just playing stupid on that one, or what? What's going on there? Or maybe we just don't get it. Heck, maybe what we think was like a wonderful metaphor. They're like, no, that was just too obvious. Nobody uses that for a metaphor. You got to go more oblique. Don't be so crude. When he says it that way, he means it literally.
Yeah. So. It's hard to say too.
Because that was a long ways away. You can't ask anybody. You can say, hey, is this how it used to work? Did you really have to go flowery for your metaphors? Or okay, yeah, that is how it goes. Okay, I'll tell everyone back home. So interesting. But yes, so bottom line for changing stuff up, just go do something else. Switch your media up. If nothing else, make some of the media yourself.
Yeah, and make a podcast. I always want to remind people,
Or I suppose you could always call it, if you don't have anyone else to do it with, you could always call them pod journals.
Yeah, if you do a solo one, it could be just a simple journal. Get your thoughts out there. I want to, like I always say, I want to hear more podcasts. I think everybody should have a podcast.
Well, so here's the interesting thing is, depending on how much the NSA down in America is paying attention to everybody, most Americans do have.
So just with one or two NSA listeners.
They don't have a lot of listeners, but they technically have, their own, pod journals, whether they know it or not.
Although one of the things I suspect is that yes, they collect all this data and all this information. So if they wanted to look at somebody, they probably could. But in reality, they're looking at their ex-girlfriend's stuff, basically, and they're not really paying attention to anybody else. At least that's the impression.
Or they're just feeding it through the computer to find the keywords, and then, okay, this works out, and then we'll find everybody 1 degree related to them, do a quick check on them, and see where that leads.
I am kind of curious, though, if they actually have, because the technology for audio recognition is fairly recent.
From what I've been told, they have several large buildings devoted just to holding the data and analyzing it.
Yeah, but if
large buildings.
If you had something like a podcast, like in a file, I don't know if they would have the infrastructure set up to actually have a computer analyze it and see if there's certain words in it.
I believe they do.
I think it's possible now, but it's hard to say whether every company, every branch of the government would have that implemented. But I suppose they
it just goes all to the NSA in this case with the whole PRISM thing.
And I imagine, it's probably in a database somewhere, but I'm just wondering if they've fed it through their system yet to,
The way I see it, it's got to be a lot easier to hear a coded analysis for a word, going through a file than it would be for, say, a face, analyzing facial pattern recognitions.
Yeah, could be.
And they do have that stuff over in Britain.
Yeah.
So that guy's a criminal walking down there. The camera caught him. Send some police over this way, and we'll pick him up.
And I suppose, you don't necessarily have to go through every byte of data in the podcast. You can just somehow do a search for that string that sounds like a word.
Yeah, there's different ways of doing it. There's a lot of technical ways about it, and that's probably a technical podcast in and of itself. Which becomes ironic if they utilize the themes within that to start doing analysis of the podcast to see if it contains any words to keep an eye out for.
In fact, we might be contributing if they're still, I'm sure they're still refining it, but maybe somebody out there...
Hello there, NSA listeners. We are called Red Flags for now.
But they might be using our podcast to calibrate, to...
I'm fairly certain we're not really worthy of their attention, but we're probably somewhere on their list of data.
I think what we are is we're sort of average North American accented people talking in a normal register, and I think that's...
although I have, just thinking back, mentioned the Middle East an interesting amount of times. Maybe we are on one of their lists.
I doubt for anything like that, but you never know. But we've been going for a little long. I just want to remind listeners we have an email address, thesimulationist@gmail.com. Visit us on YouTube or Facebook. Look for The Simulationist in the whatever search box you have, and leave a comment wherever you can.
And if you are from the NSA, you don't actually have to post it as such. Don't worry, we're not going to make those assumptions. You just post it as you, and then mention something about that. And say, hey, I think you were right on the money about mentioning, the Middle East too much. You guys might wind up on a list. We get what you're saying. That's all you have to do. That's all you have to tell us, and we'll try and keep... Well, we'll try and mellow it down a little bit, not mention it so much, so that way you don't have to wind up listening to us.
Well, I guess...
involuntarily. If you're listening to us, we hope you want to, not because, exactly. A computer red flagged us.
Well, that would be kind of fun, because they'd get, some good content that way.
Well, it's not a bad way to spend an hour and a half of a day at work, is just listening to two guys speaking about good things in fiction.
Yeah. Anyways.
I bet you there's probably a lot of good story ideas coming from the people who work at the NSA.
Yeah.
They work there 5-10 years, they retire, they write some fiction novels out there. I'm sure they got them up with some good ideas.
In that case, if you're one of those people listening right now, and you want to come on the podcast and have a chat, that'd be cool too.
But please don't hack our systems to get us get in there. We can do this easily, man.
Hack our...
We can do this the easy way. It doesn't have to be the hard way, man.
That's true. It does. Okay, I think that's long enough, right? We're done? Okay. I've been
Agreed.
Coach 11.
I've been Ryan Kirkby.
Simon.